Hey folks, Kevin here. Well, it's December 22nd, 2023, and today I thought what I'd do is respond to a couple of comments and questions that I've gotten recently. And I have written a couple of articles to try and address some of these issues. I know that with our website, which is mindfullivingsanctuary.com, no underscores or anything, no spaces. Um, I haven't been great about posting articles on a regular basis, and I know that I go over quite a few things in the videos that I've created, and sometimes I'm referring to information that I created in a video 8, 10 years ago. So it's really hard for people who are first to the channel, newcomers to this channel, to figure out what the heck I'm talking about, what experiences I've had, and so on. So So today I'm going to go to the articles section on mindfullivingsanctuary.com. We'll get to this composting here in just a moment. But I thought I'd take a look at this article. I apologize for my voice here. On how to grow a better tomorrow. The reason that I created this article was to give people an idea of how my mind actually works. That helps people to gain a perspective of what Kevin's thinking about and why he's taking these approaches to accomplishing different tasks and why I'm not doing what many other people may elect to do. Recently, I just got a question about. The question was, how do you justify spending so much money for the precision armor bumper and winch that I purchased from Precision Armor for the back of the track loader? And it's not my job to justify things. We all have our own decisions, but it's all about time, quality, and the cost of things. And obviously, my mix, my solution isn't what someone else's will be. And certainly, I'm just sharing my thoughts, my processes. Uh, Everyone's free to do and encouraged to do the things that meet their needs and that they feel are best. And my thoughts and processes are constantly evolving. So in this article, I go over about sustainable living approaches. It's multifactorial, based on where you live in the country, what your economic status is, what your climate's like, what your goals and aspirations are like. We're very much, Thea and I are both environmentalists, we're conservationists. Uh, we're always thinking about I'm always thinking about every day how I'm going to create a better version of myself and how that's reflected in the things that I do every day. And so some of these things in the article have to do with the design of the house, which my brother Dave helped me with tremendously, not just with creating the design for a passive solar home and with a large thermal mass energy unit under the ground and the ventilation system in the house, and actually helped me physically build this house. So this was done in the 80s. And how we're constantly evolving our energy utilization and energy recovery systems from different systems as well. So, and I go over in this article some of the ways that we've evolved with our growing systems on our property. And I don't talk much in this because I've talked in other articles about permaculture and how we've incorporated those forms of sustainable living as well. And I talk about community and business a little bit in this article. These are just like bullet statements about how I actually think. And if there's comments or questions about, I apologize for my raspiness here with my voice. If there's comments or questions about what I'm talking about in this article, please feel free to reach out, ask questions, leave comments below, or leave comments in the article itself. So there's a space below to leave comments and all. So that's just an introduction to that one article. uh, just how to grow a better tomorrow. Then I've had lots of questions over the years about wood chips and composting and the things you can compost and what you can't compost. And I'll do an article in the future on the bioremediation systems as well. I've talked about that in many videos. And if you want, if there's topics that you've heard me talk about, go to the website and leave information there, or ask your questions and leave your comments on the website or on YouTube video as well. That's so that we can all, I'm hoping that this will be a resource for community people that they can go to and share their ideas and learn from as well. And certainly, I don't have all the answers, not at all. So the art and science of thermophilic composting. Now, we've been doing vermiculture using red wiggler worms to compost kitchen waste in the past and all, and garden waste. And we've done decomposition piles and breaking down wood chips. We've actually broken down brush piles. I have videos on composting weeds. I have videos on composting cat litter as well, not using clay litter, but using a chicken feed crumble mix for the cats, because we're a multi-cat household as well. So, so the art and science of thermophilic composting, this is really a way of people to manage a compost pile in such a way, and it's pretty effective. It can turn a compost into beautiful, rich soil, eliminating weed seeds, eliminating pathogens as well. Now, it can't take care of all possibilities of pathogens, but all those ones that we think about in our pets' waste, and those ones that are in the soil as well. But it goes over the requirements, the temperature, the moisture, the oxygen requirements as well. And again, these are sort of like bullet statements in a sense, the way that my mind thinks. And each one of those bullets, I could go off for quite a spell on explaining those details, but that's not the purpose of this sort of article. So one of the questions I got recently, just for me wife, asked, "Good morning, Kevin. What is your thoughts on using heat generated by the compost pile to help heat your house or greenhouse? I've been thinking about incorporating on my place. Since you're not doing it, I suspect you have a reason." Thanks for that question. That's an absolutely fantastic question. So I wrote this article here, utilizing compost heat for building heating in cold temperate climates. Now again, this whole concept is multifactorial. It really is dependent on where you live, what your goals are, what compost ingredients you have available to you, how much greens, how much browns, the volume, your home, your community setting, or your greenhouse setting, what you've got in relation. So I've got videos on, turning, I'll just go over here for a second. So here's a video of me turning a large compost pile. And this video is probably 8 years old. And I have a whole list on large pile composting processes. And I have the videos on composting weeds and composting kitty litter, all of those sorts of things. But here I am with the Case 995 or David Brown tractor going around the outside perimeter of this compost pile, taking that cool outer surface, moving it towards the inner surface. And as I get closer to the inner surface, you can see more evidence that there's heat generation. So the outer surface, from the top to the outer layers, are all cooler areas. And in order to deactivate pathogens, and in order to deactivate weed seeds, so that when you put this in your garden, you don't have weeds competition growing up next to the plants that you're trying to grow. So this is very time consuming. And when you look at this video, you can see in a sense that here I am. It takes a great deal of space. You need space to be able to move your piece of equipment if you're doing something like this. If you've got a very small compost pile, the amount of heat energy extracted from that small compost pile is significantly less than what you can get in this pile. I've talked about this in the past where back in the early 80s, Thea and I had raised horses on a thoroughbred breeding farm here on this property. Years ago, it was a big horse farm. And a good friend of ours, which she had a large set of stables. She was also a breeder. She had set up utilizing. Okay, well, I'm back, and the computer crashed here for a moment, and so I'm not sure just where everything took off or where things ended, but I'm going to try to splice these two videos together. So in this video, I'm showing one of the large composting turning events that I've done in the past, and it just requires appropriate space to have the pile, to actually be able to move a pile to another spot while you're turning it, unless you've got a very, very small area that you want to heat. And so this article that I'm going to share with you is utilizing the heat for building and heating a home or a greenhouse or a structure or a hot tub. And Ben Falk, years ago, he has his own website. You just search for Ben Falk. He's a permaculturist and an educator, and he showed using a compost pile. Permaculture people have been using wood chips for years and urinating on it as well, and different composting systems. There's a lot of potential energy to be captured out of composting. And I think what I was talking about was our friend Vern, when we had our horse business years ago. One of the things she did was she used aluminum irrigation piping initially, and put that within a very large composting pile system, similar to our large one that you just saw some of the video of. And during this process, what she ended up doing was putting a fan at one end, having the piping go from one part of her basement, going out through the compost pile, and then coming back through and just blowing the air. So the air from the basement, which was, probably at the lowest, maybe 60 degrees Fahrenheit, going out into a compost pile that was probably 120 degrees Fahrenheit, or 100 to 120 degrees Fahrenheit, and then it would circulate and come back into the basement of her house, and of course the heat would rise and start to heat the house. And that was her most efficient system, but the aluminum started breaking down, and the seals started breaking down between each one of these sections. And of course the odor of the compost as it was breaking down, not the finished compost, which has a beautiful earthy smell to it, but the manure smell was permeating in her home. She also used different water pipe systems to try as well. I've used black plastic pipe to see how efficient it was, and it is. And people have used PEX piping as well. So there's lots of creative ways of extracting the heat. But depending on the efficiency is really dependent on multiple factors, and that's what I go over in this article. So it certainly is a potentially viable process to do, but there are temperature fluctuations, there's seasonal variations, the scale and intensity, the amount of energy, so it's cost, quality, and time that you're putting into these systems. Heat transfer and distribution, like in our house, we have the large the thermal mass under the floor system, and we have a fan system that blows the hot air as it rises to the peak of our house, and or takes the heat from the wood stove as it heats the thermal mass of our chimney. That gets conducted through fans, and gets forced down into our thermal mass. And the same thing when the sun comes in during the winter months here. The sun comes into all of our south-facing windows, heats the floor or heats the objects in the house, excuse me, and that heat gradually rises in the air, gets conducted through the chimneys. We have two chimneys that suck the warm air from the peak of the house down into the thermal mass unit, and that radiates out. And so when there's no sun, no wood stove or anything like that in our super insulated house, that maintains, like this morning, the temperature, it's 16 degrees Fahrenheit outside, but this morning it's 73 degrees in here. And we haven't had any heat on. We had a wood stove burnt for a couple of hours yesterday, but we had sun, so that kept the house nice and warm. But it really depends on all these different factors, how you're going to conduct that heat through your system, and there's different ways. So, capturing the heat, the pipe size, the heat output, tube design and placement, and how difficult that is when you have a large composting pile, especially when you've got to be turning the pile. Moisture management, the challenges with moisture management when you're using the different materials. The insulation and heat retention ability, the better areas are heat insulated, the better. The materials and how easily some things break down over time. So if this is going to be a sustainable practice that you're going to be doing, that's really important. The microbial and chemical activity that goes on in the compost pile with the materials that you're using as well. The mechanical stresses of turning the pile, like I use a big tractor or the excavator to do it. Moisture, corrosion, biodegradability concerns, what ends up leaching into the compost as a result of the materials and techniques that you're using. Are you deactivating the seeds that you can with thermophilic composting? Are you killing pathogens if there are pathogens? So there's lots of things to consider, and of course in my conclusions. And I'd really look forward to people's thoughts and experiments that they've done, leaving comments or making videos about that as well. That can be helpful to all of us. And I hope I can splice this video together and it comes out somewhat reasonable. And I really appreciate your comments and questions as always. These are just my thoughts, my experiments, the things that I've done over the years. I am by no means an expert in any of these areas, so be free to share your thoughts and experiences. And there's lots of good peer-reviewed articles online about these topics as well. So that's it for today's video. I really do appreciate your time and your thumbs up and your visiting the system, and certainly your comments as well. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great day. Bye-bye now.